like this. Okay, thank you for joining us for this talk in the TRE Talk and Tremor series. I would like to welcome everyone, and especially Yasmin, who will present today. I'm looking forward to this talk very much. It's a bit on a slightly different topic. It's on creativity and TRE. Yasmin, she's a psychologist, TRE instructor, as well as musician, artist, and has worked a lot on this topic. So I'm looking forward to hear more about it. It's also possible to join us later for a tremor session where we focus on this topic as well. Welcome, Yasmin.
Thank you. Thank you, Hans. And hello, everybody. I'm very happy to be with you today. It's a special day in two ways, because today is my birthday. And when Hans offered me to give a presentation, he offered a number of dates, and I had a choice. And why did I pick this date? Well, I felt it was like a very symbolic way to connect with this whole idea of being alive and coming to the world and showing up also. And for me, TRE has been a very powerful tool and instrument and approach, which in the last 3 years has definitely had a major role in helping me to show up more fully and more authentically through, the effects that it creates when we start practicing and integrating it in our life. So I'm very glad to share this moment with all of you. It's like I'm having a birthday party with you tonight or today, or depending where you are in the world. So thanks for being here. And this is supposed to be something fun and interactive, as much as possible. When I prepared for it, I realized I had prepared for a workshop that could take a full day. So of course, trying to summarize it in an hour is going to be a challenge. And so what I decided is that I will improvise, even though I have a presentation ready, and I will follow, probably a thread. But also it's about letting this creativity flow into that presentation and allowing for, whatever comes, and also accepting that it's not going to be perfect. And that's also one of the effects that TRE has had in my life, is to accept that I'm human and, embrace this vulnerability and this humanity in a more joyful and more relaxed way, even though I'm a little bit, of course, nervous, to be in front of the screen. But as I see your smiling and friendly faces, I think it's also giving me more security and safety. So the co-regulation is working here. And as we will see, of course, we know that TRE is a very powerful way for self-regulating our nervous system. And what I'm also learning is the power of co-regulation, and more how the two kind of connect and go together. And for me, creativity is about community, is about coming together, is about co-creation more than anything, basically. So how about we co-create that space and that time together? Agreed? Yeah? I can see thumbs up. Fantastic. So for me and for you, how about we start with a moment of grounding and, breathing and going into our bodies a little bit without doing TRE, just a moment for connecting with, what is present right now. So you can keep your eyes open or close them as you wish, as you prefer. I'm going to close them. And I invite you just to sit and connect with your breath. Mine is a little bit, I can feel it's a little bit up there. So I'm going to try to breathe a little bit more deeply and just connect to your breath and how you're breathing is manifesting in your body. And just the sensation of the air coming in and coming out of the body. And as I'm breathing, I can bring my attention to where and how my breathing actually starts and how it continues into my body. So it can be related to the sensation of the air coming into the nostrils. And it can be also related to what parts of my body are rising or falling while I'm breathing in and out. And as we are connecting to the breath, we may also connect to the sense of wonder and amazement and gratitude that we are alive and that we can breathe. And that there is something in us that allows us to be alive and to be here together today. And with every breath that comes into me, I sense maybe a little bit more aliveness. And maybe I can connect to this aliveness in my body. Where can I sense some aliveness? It can be in warmth in some part of my body. It could be a tickling or some other sensations. And I can just connect to the sense of aliveness. It could be the heart that I'm feeling. It can be also my feet on the floor. If I connect to the sensation and feeling the earth supporting me, or my sitting and sensing the support I'm getting from wherever I'm sitting. And just taking in a few more breaths. And maybe just connecting to one thing that you feel grateful for just right now. Something that brings a little smile to your heart. Something that when you think of it is sweet. And when you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes and bring them to the space around you before you bring them to the screen. And look around you in the space you are in. And noticing where you are in the space. And also maybe having your eyes or your gaze gently fall on something that attracts you and again brings a smile or a positive, a warm sensation to you. Can be anything. And just having your gaze there and breathing a few times. And when you feel ready, you can bring your gaze back to the screen or to wherever you want. Thank you for this moment. So I'm going to share my screen now. So this means I'm not going to see you all in the same time. When I say it's interactive, we won't have a lot of time maybe to talk, for you to talk or give me some, feedback, because it's short. But feel free in the chat if there's comments you'd like to make, or so at some points I'll ask you some questions, and feel free to share them in the chat. And of course, if you really have the urge or the need or the want to share something with your beautiful voice, please feel free to do it, because it's a creative space. So there's space for everything and everyone. So here is my screen. Can you all see? Yeah, great, thanks. So yeah, so poetry, living a creative life, and how TRE can be an instrument to explore new paths. So as I was preparing for it, I was really thinking and trying to connect to why I wanted to share this with you. And I think the reason, is, yeah, I forgot to say, please, if you feel at any time you want to, get a piece of paper or pen or something, maybe there's a few notes you will want to take for yourself, because I will share some exercises. So I connected a lot to this book from Julia Cameron, The Artist's Way. Some of you might know it. If you don't, it's a very fantastic resource to have. And so basically, I realized that this creative inflow is something we all have. This is part of who we are, because we are part of creation. And as we are part of creation, we are contributing to creation every day. And that I love this element, that we come to the earth with this element of creation and creativity. And the whole thing is about how we connect or reconnect to it. The idea is that we will have fun together, I hope. And if I'm being boring, please let me know. It shouldn't be boring. So this was done. So yeah, so who am I and why I chose this theme? So the who am I is a very big question. So I thought, instead of giving you a full resume of my whole life and career, which I find boring, really, is I will share this with you, which is my tree of life, or which is Yasmin's tree, basically. And when I reflected on what I would like to share in regards with TRE, and I realized that really it comes back to the purpose of my life. And the purpose of my life is to be of service, is to walk a path of service to humanity and for the betterment of the world, together with as many people as possible. And this is what has been at the core of my motivation always. And because this has been at the core of my being and of my, desire and aspiration, I have also felt that there were so many things in my way, preventing me to fully reveal and manifest manifest this aspiration. And many of these things have been, now I understand better, have been trauma, childhood trauma, developmental trauma, and, all of these things, that also generational trauma, which have had a very strong impact in my life, in the sense that it has affected my health, my psyche. It has kind of put me in states of depression, burnout many times, and in a repeated way, and also a lot of, physical ailments and pains and all of that. And so because I had this deep aspiration that I wanted to be of service, I was searching all my life what could free me, what could liberate, what could heal me, so that I could be that instrument and play my role in the world. And so many different things have helped me, and creativity and music and singing has definitely been a very important aspect in my life, which has, and now I understand better with studying the nervous system and the brain and all of these, I understand better how this has been very, very crucial and key in me being still alive and being able to express, my aliveness in a way, even though I was very trapped into my trauma responses and post-traumatic disorder and all of these things. So music and singing and art has already been from the beginning a very important element. And I think also because I was searching, I probably chose my studies in that way. You know, that's why I decided to study psychology, because I wanted to understand. I wanted to understand who are we, how do we function, why do we function in the way that we are, and how can we actually find ways to heal ourselves. And now, of course, I realized that the choice of my studies was very much related to that quest. Obviously, as you may know, it's not that when you go to university that you can actually heal from things, because university only fed the brain and the intellect. And actually, so that's why for as long, you know, as I remember, for over the last 25, 30 years, I've been following different therapies, group therapies, individual therapies, you name it. I mean, all kinds of physical therapies to be able to function better, I would say. And until 3 years ago, or 3.5 years ago, despite all of my efforts of trying to be better and feel better, my body gave me very strong signs that still something was not fine. And this is how I was guided to TRE by the universe in some way. And I suddenly understood, you know, kind of, I was like, okay, it has to be in the body. It has to come from within my body and my nervous system that the healing starts. Because if it comes from top down, I had done enough of top down to know that it hadn't healed me properly or fully, or, you know. So, you know, being able to start TRE and basically integrating it in my life more and more, when I started doing it, it became really part of my life on almost every day for some time, or on a very regular basis. And I could see after a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, the very amazing, powerful effect it had of releasing all of this trauma and tension and stress that I had been used to living with all my life. And how slowly but surely it was like, you know, like an onion, it was peeling off the different layers of this pain that had been stored in my body, like, you know, and basically slowly but surely kind of allowing for, I would say, this sense of aliveness and sense of presence and sense of bigger freedom, bigger lightness also to kind of permeate slowly but surely the different aspects of my life. So this is why I wanted to also connect it with creativity, because this element for me is so important in my life that I thought, okay, let me find a way to connect it to. And so basically now, as in my life, I would say that my life is articulated around 3 big themes or priorities. And I was having a chat with Hans before we started this talk, you know, saying that one of the effects for me of TRE and all that comes together with it was to enable me to refocus my life in a very concrete way. And so today, the 3 axes of my life, I could say, is really about the healing work, my own healing work, and keeping it really as an important priority, because I know that if I am looking and caring after myself and my nervous system and my health and my physical and emotional health, and in a holistic way, in a coherent way, then everything else also is coherent and aligned with it. If I'm neglecting that part, then the rest is definitely, and I know that from experience, is suffering. So that's a very important element. And of course, I'm also now working as a TRE provider. I have clients, and you know, a few months ago, I was contacted by a private clinic here in Switzerland, which was very interested to work with TRE, having a TRE part of their healing program for their patients. And so it's an amazing experience for me to be able to also bring it out into, I would say, a more medical world or environment. So I'm still also on a learning curve on that element. And I'm also training now, in addition to my work as a psychologist, in a new approach of therapy, which combines all the elements of polyvagal theory, so the theory of the nervous system, together with self-regulation and co-regulation and attachment, the attachment theory. And so this is also kind of bringing more things together. And the other element is voice, singing, composing. And I was reflecting as I was preparing for this talk, okay, so since you've been starting TRE, how has this changed in your life? You know, how has the creativity, changed and improved? And I realized that I have been able to implement or finish maybe the recording of a project, of a musical project that I had been thinking about for a long time. So last year I was able to finish the recording, produce it, do the arrangements, and lead it to its final, production. I was also able to start a new musical group, because for 5 or 6 years I didn't have a musical group anymore. And so I realized that kind of feeling much freer and more relaxed, I started this musical group in a very organic way. And we're still at the beginning, but this is also very interesting for me, because in the past I would push and pull to create things. And also the process has been much lighter in that sense. Another element is in my work. I have introduced I work as a career counselor for adults and young adults. And I've been able to introduce a totally new thing to create more joy in the working space and more connection between my colleagues. And my director has accepted this project, and this is also something. So these are just a few examples that, I was trying to reflect what are the things that have changed concretely in my life since, starting TRE. And this is just a few glimpses, and I will get back to more things. And then the community building is a very important element. How do we learn to create communities that are based on unity, on collaboration, on solidarity, on mutual support? And I moved to a new neighborhood last May. And also here I can see the amazing positive aspect of being much more aligned, of being much calmer, of having less anxiety, and this creativity is manifesting in the way I'm interacting also with people, and people are interacting with me. So anyways, I just wanted to give these a few elements because I thought they were important also of why I chose this theme. So now I have a question for you. Let's get interactive. So in the chat, if you want to, of course, you're always free. I have a question for you. Who has the best imagination on the planet? And you may write whatever, and I will read the comments. Okay, children, dolphins, fantastic. Nature. Yeah, great. So let's see. Hi, Abraham.
Hello.
So Abraham, can you tell us about your friend the dinosaur, please?
My dinosaur sleep, eat with me, outside go, jumping around, running around, and stay home, and do Peppa Pig, Maya Bay, and also, I don't know. Hello.
Abraham. Sorry. So I think we all agree. So this is my nephew, Abraham. So when I prepared this presentation, he was a big source of inspiration for me. So now you can, if you want, take a piece of paper or just in your mind, take a little bit of time to kind of answer for yourself to these few questions that I'm giving to you. And if you want, in the last question, will you be able to share some elements in the chat if you wish. So the first question is, when was the last time you had the experience of creativity or feeling creative? So that's one question. You don't have to answer this question in the chat. It's just the last question. So how did it manifest in you, for you, or in you? So basically, how did this creativity express itself? Was it anything? You know, it could be anything. Was it in the way you interacted with someone? Was it something you did or created or something, anything, you know? So how did it manifest? And how did you feel? You know, what are the sensations you had in that creative state? I'm just giving you a little bit of time. Sorry, I realize I'm rushing through, and the idea is to give you time. And yeah, so just a little bit of time. And then, what image or color do you associate with this experience of creativity? So what comes to you? It can be an image or a sensation or, you know. And if you want, you can share this in 1 or 2 words in the chat. So there's a heart. Creativity makes me feel alive. It makes me feel in alignment. Expansion and golden light with some rainbow colors. Wow, beautiful. Sky is the limit. Feeling freedom, a lot of energy flowing. Thank you for your sharing, all of you. Feeling joy and peaceful. Great. Very beautiful. Thank you very much for sharing. So, yeah, basically, I have said all of that. So now I want to take you to a little bit of theory. Don't worry, it won't be too long. It's the part in me, the psychologist who likes to understand things, you know, that went to do a little bit of research. And at the end, I'll give you my my email address. So if you're interested, I could send you the references that I found on this subject and other resources. But because, of course, TRE is related very much to our nervous system and regulating our nervous system, I was like, okay, there must be something connected between it. And most probably all of these things, all of us know already. So, you know, it's I'm probably definitely not going to teach you or learn, and you're not going to maybe learn anything new, but for me, it was interesting to put these ideas together. So one thing that I found interesting is that creativity does not involve a single brain region or a single hemisphere of the brain. And it's really different parts of the brain or different aspects of the brain which are interacting. And this in itself was an important element, because this made me understand that you cannot isolate creativity to one part or one thing. It's again an element of collaboration. This is how I see it. A collaboration with different parts of ourselves, and basically that also explains the complexity of it in some way. So that was one bit of information. And then, it is assumed generally that stress has a detrimental effect on creativity. And why is that so? What happens is that in the aftermath of stress, so just right after a stressful event or a series of stressful events or situations or chronic stress, or our resources, our cognitive, physiological resources are reallocated to promote vigilance and survival. And that's the purpose of our nervous system. The purpose of our nervous system is to keep us alive. And the way our nervous system is functioning is that it's going to signal us through neuroception. So basically, through the different senses that we have, it's going to give us an indication of what is safe and what is unsafe. And of course, what is safe and unsafe, or perceived safe and unsafe, will depend, obviously, of our experiences. And I put this in a big bucket, all our lives' experiences. And because the purpose of the nervous system is to keep us alive, if it detects signals of something that could be perceived as threatening, it will go into the survival mode. And so basically our higher order cognitive capacities that are usually used and put together for the creative cognition are shifted to meet those more urgent needs. So basically, we could see that it's almost like the stress factor will hijack, take hostage of our higher brain functions, and in this mechanism, we revert to our habitual responses. So what is known and familiar, and of course, this is totally involuntary and unconscious. So it's not like we can do anything consciously about it, because it's all about a physiological and brain and electrical mechanism that will happen, and all our the body, when our body is flooded with the stress hormones, then we see it. Our memory, attention span, our ability to focus are all affected. And basically, much of the research on creative processes also indicate that we produce our best work not during the times where we are under most stress. So there's also this element of brain waves that can slow down enough, and when we can enter into that zone. I think we've all had an experience of that moment of zone, where we feel everything is aligned and our consciousness and our ability to perceive things maybe that we don't perceive is more open. Okay, so that's an interesting element also. Having said that, I like it because, the research, you can always find the exact opposite. So this is when you start doing research, you find one aspect and then you find the other aspect. It's not always, the impact of stress is not universally negative. And really, it depends on how what is happening is perceived by our own system, by our own system as something very threatening or not. So it depends on this perception that we have, and on the stressor and on the intensity and on the gravity and all of these elements. So it doesn't mean that because something is stressing me that it will stress another person. And also, it doesn't mean that because it might cut me off from my creativity, it might cut someone else from their creativity. So anyways, we are all unique in our functioning. But one thing is for sure is that if we can learn how to manage our stress and stay creative, we are more likely to live a longer and healthy life. And the element there is that because when it says creative people, I don't like this, but when we are able to connect to this creativity expression in our life, in whatever form it may be, we also tend to see the world and the elements that are maybe stressors. We start seeing them differently. But of course, this is also related to our nervous system. So anyways, it's like this loop, this amazing loop. And so I summarize this all in a very simple image because I like simple images. obviously stress can affect our creativity, and creativity might also reduce our stress. And it's an and or, and it depends. So basically, maybe it's an invitation also to connect and to be more aware. What are the situations in my life where I feel that having involved myself in some creativity, whatever the form is, how has that impacted, you know, my stress, my level of stress, and the opposite. We had to bring this element for all of you who have studied TRE or the polyvagal theory. You know this diagram very well. I'm not going to stay too long on it, especially because I want to show the diagram that Hans also created, which I like very much. So I will, jump to it. But basically, this is Stephen Porges, who developed the polyvagal theory, indicates that there's a hierarchy in our brain, and there's a hierarchy in the way that our brain will adapt or react to stress or regulate itself, basically, to bring our nervous system to a regulated state where we can function. And basically, the hierarchy goes from social engagement to sympathetic to freeze, meaning that the most natural way that we kind of regulate, or not the most natural, but the first level is that it's to regulate our nervous system is the social engagement. So that's what I called also co-regulation. That's really how a child, when it is born, will kind of be able to regulate its nervous system. If that is not possible, if they are not the right conditions, or the needs of the child are not met and all of that, basically, the second level of response will be the sympathetic, which is fight and flight. And fight and flight is an activation of the nervous system where our muscles and our, it will activate all our bodily function to put us in a position to move or fight or flight. And if that is not possible for whatever reason in our environment, then we will fall into what is called the freeze, where it's this immobilization. And, we have maybe seen these videos of animals that, are cannot move anymore. And we have seen it in our cells and all. And basically, all of these stages are important. So we need all of these responses of our nervous system. It's not to say that it's bad to be in either or. They are there to promote our survival. And the problem is when we get stuck into these states. And I will just move to this kind of diagram, which was developed by Hans, my TRE trainer. I forgot to thank Hans, actually. Sorry, Hans, I've been really impolite so far. Where we can see that in the lower part, it's when we are in this freeze and disconnection. Obviously, I can say for myself, I know that when I'm in this state, this is not the state in which I'm feeling creative, because literally be it my cognitive or my energy level, all of that, I am not able to kind of be in a creative mode. And the higher we go into, we go up into the responses of the nervous system, the more we are able to connect with this element of playfulness, curiosity, where for me, at least, I feel I'm in this creative mode. And so I'm just made a few kind of snapshots of this diagram, which I find really interesting. And here I will connect it with TRE. When I started doing TRE, what I think the main effect it had on me is that it took me out of the freeze. And how did I realize that? And what was the concrete example is that I had very bad pains in my body that would not leave despite all the other things I had tried, therapies and so on and so forth. And after 3 months of practicing, like back pain, stomach pains, all of this, and after 3 months of practicing TRE on a regular basis, I could find some flexibility again in my body. And I could feel some of the pains recessing. Other pains started, coming to the surface, but already I could feel that I was no longer contracted all the time. My body was loosening and it was opening up. I was no longer in this kind of I can still relate to that. Whenever something was perceived, I perceived something as stress and it wasn't even conscious, my body would go into that, response. And obviously when you do that on a regular basis, different things can happen. Hans does it very nicely because he connects it also to the emotions. So the slide before was, about the response systems of the nervous system. And these are the emotions that are also related. So it's all about also, I realized by doing TRE, I started going up into the ladder, I would say, of emotions and feeling more alive. And feeling more alive doesn't mean necessarily all the time feeling joyful and happy and all of that, but feeling more alive is also being able to feel the sadness or feel the disappointment or feel actually the anger and experience it at a very physiological level. And that also for me was a way to move out of freeze, So hence also, as the two are so connected, as I am releasing the physical tensions, the emotional system starts becoming also more fluid. And I think this is the whole thing about TRE and all the approaches that work with the body and the nervous system in a very embodied way, whatever that may be and whatever works for us, is that it helps us to move through these different layers with less rigidity. So we are less stuck. So that means we are able to maybe not stay so long anymore in the freeze response or in the fight and flight response. And we are able to enter more rapidly into these other levels of response systems. And we are able to go back and connect even to the lower ones. But again, it's a matter of all of a sudden finding this kind of fluidity. And I can see some of you. And with it, of course, comes all of these emotions also, where we can feel more tranquility. And really, I could see the difference in my own life. Even my friends and my family started telling me, but Yasmin, you're no longer the same as we knew, you are so much more relaxed and so much calmer and cooler. And it's true. I mean, really, I could see how it really affected my whole mood on a day-to-day basis. I mean, I'm still a person that feels anxiety when certain things, and of course, I haven't changed completely, but I feel it's just kind of exactly like the movement I'm doing. It's flowing. I feel alive. And even when there are these negative tensions or things, they don't stay stuck and I don't stay stuck. And that's such a release also. So having said that, now I suggest we don't have really time to go for a disco. But I suggest that because there was a lot of theory, before we move to the next bit, you do a movement that you feel comfortable with. And I'm going to stretch, for example, anything that feels good. Just whatever you need is good for your body. You can yarn, you can make sounds also if you want, whatever. Grab a glass of water, whatever I'm going to drink. Cheers. Great. All right. So, I want to see your beautiful faces before I move on. Just so far, how are you? Is there anything you'd like to share? Something that comes to your mind? A question? A comment? If nothing, it's okay. I'll continue, but I wanted to reconnect with you a little bit more. There's a smile. Thank you, Hans, for sending the response funnel also in the chat, so anyone can download it here. Great. All right, so are you ready for the next bit? Yeah, cool. So, whoops. Yeah, so now, okay, now, oh yeah, no. Okay, so I have questions, but I will come back to the screen because I want to see you. But yeah, actually, let's come back to the screen. For those of you who want, how many of you have already experienced TRE in some way? Like you had, okay, most, yeah. Anyone has, some people have never experienced TRE, don't know what it is. And basically I should have asked this question. Oh, hello, Elizabeth. Sorry, so you've kind of, sorry, so you've been, so Elizabeth, you know, is there, I will not make a presentation on TRE, so I'm sorry, but I'm sure I will give you my email address, and then I'll be sending some resources if you need to. But I hope that what I'm going to share with you is enough. Okay, yeah, cool. Thank you for your understanding. Okay, so I'm assuming that most of us here have had some experience of TRE, or at least know a little bit what it is. And for Elizabeth, welcome to this brave woman who kind of decided to come and experience this session without knowing. So hopefully you will want to learn and start it after that, right? Okay, so now having said that, now I'll go back to this. And yeah, so I'd be very interested to know, and if you want to share again, it's totally if willing, in one word, how has TRE affected you? So what have you gotten, and what are you getting from your practice of TRE? And you could write the word in the chat if you wanted. And I've lost the chat. Oops. So, oh, here it is. So, connection with myself from Marie. Lisa, release, focus, liberation, growth, and grounding. Cyrine. Overcoming a trauma. Discovering the language with my body. Sophie. I'm sorry, I'm just going back. So, adaptability, ease in my body, tool for self-regulation. It's fun, fast, efficient, and easily incorporated in my life. Thank you, Madeleine. Great. So we can see that it's connected somehow. But what we see is also that everyone gets something specific out of the TRE practice. And that's the beauty of it, that it will come, this tool is so universal. It's so simple. It has this element of simplicity, of universality, a new feeling, Edith. And for me, it was this first time also that I felt, you know, when people would tell me, Yasmin, you need to be more in connection with your body. You know, in French, I'm French speaking, as you might have noticed in my accent, maybe, is that they would say, mais sois dans ton corps, en fait. Qu'est-ce que tu sens dans ton corps? And you know, when you've been disconnected most of your life because of trauma and developmental trauma and all of this thing, when people say, well, you know, connect to your body, I'm like, yeah, thank you very much, but I can't. I can't connect to my body. That's the problem, you know? And so I think for me, the real asset with TRE is, why I'm talking in the past, I'm still using it very regularly in my life, is that for the first time, I was able to sense things in my body that I have never sensed before. And I was able to connect with things in a way that felt safe also. And that was also thanks to the co-regulation with the people who accompanied me in that process. So I think it's like, again, this self-regulation and co-regulation element. So anyway, so basically, these are some of the effects that you have experienced. Yeah, so, if you want, I was thinking you could also do a movement or sound, we're not going to hear you, which expresses this word in your body. So for me, it would be like, yeah, something like that, for example. Sorry, that was not back, but forward. So I've already shared some of this, but I thought I'd share a little bit more because I think also what I found really interesting for me in my whole learning process is how TRE is working from the body up. So it's like a bottom-up approach to regulate and liberate and free the nervous system from its, I would say, survival mechanisms and patterns. At the same time, reading the literature, following the course of TRE with Hans and Robin, reading and going to different training and so on, has brought the understanding. And I find this very interesting when we work in both ways, like from bottom up and from top down. And when the two meet, there is this feeling of all of a sudden, wow, now I understand. And basically for me, it was like, wow, now I understand why I felt so stuck in my life for so many years, despite all of my efforts. So how has TRE impacted me in my life and on my creative process? And you might relate to some of these things, maybe also through different approaches. TRE is not only the only approach, but, So for me, I think one of the very biggest assets is greater flexibility in moving through the different response of the nervous system. So I mentioned that. I also had this better ability to respond to stress and to transform challenges into creative learning opportunities. And I see that every day now. Like instead of being, what do I do? Oh, I'm stuck, I'm frozen. I'm like, okay, let me step back. Let me do a little bit of TRE. Let me tremor a little bit. Let my body express and move and shake it off. And when I do this, usually all of a sudden I start seeing things differently. It's also about feeling much safer in my body and in the world. So, and this sense of safety, this is how I connect it to creativity. It gives me more curiosity to explore new ways, perspectives, and paths. Because when I was stuck in my response mechanism, survival response mechanism, I was also stuck in my way of seeing things. And there was only one way or only one right way to do things or to see things. And here I'm better able to embrace a diversity of perspectives and visions and all of that. And also less afraid to make mistakes. Gosh, I was petrified to make a mistake. And now I'm not saying I'm totally cool with it, but let's say I'm cooler, much cooler. And preparing for that talk and giving you to that talk is part of this feeling cooler. So basically also the less anxiety and fear, I'm less affected by other people's opinion or approval. And there is less this need to please. I think when we are in the survival mechanism, we are always, of course, trying to find that face or that approval from others because we are not able to feel it ourselves for ourselves because we don't feel whole and we don't feel it. Anyways, that one is so important. Moving much slower also. So daring to take more time to explore and less urge to produce something. So I think that in the creative process is so important. And connected to that, I have realized, even though I haven't given you the experience of that today because I've been talking all the time, but I have a much better tolerance for silence and void. So I allowed myself for phases, whereas I had never been able to do this in my life, where I would literally do nothing. and accept and take this leap into the nothing. There's nothing. I'm not doing anything. I'm not creating. I'm not producing. And in French, we say, laisser la terre en jachère. You know, when you have a soil and you have crops growing on that soil, and then you leave that soil for a period of time without planting anything. And that allows the soil to rest. And from that, new things can emerge, new plants, new trees, new whatever. And that's the same with creativity. I did accept not to produce anything. And then from there, a new movement and impulse has started to come. Also, to be able to discern, focus, and concentrate. I'm less kind of going in every direction. I'm still a little bit, you know, from time to time. I think that's part of also of my way of functioning. But, you know, that element of focus gives me more efficiency. So also in my creative process, rather than starting 10 or 20 projects at the same time, I take one and I try to finish it. So basically, it's, you know, brought being and living more in the flow. And it's more creativity in all the dimensions and areas of my life. So creativity is no longer, you know, only in music or only in composing or only in this. It's in all the dimensions of my life. And I find this fascinating. And I think this is what life is about, basically. And when I had to find two words, I felt it was authenticity and audacity, you know, so showing up fully, more fully, obviously, and daring, being more daring. Woohoo! And one thing that my friend Karen told me also, it's thriving instead of surviving. And I found this really, really beautiful way to summarize it. Thanks, Karen. So now I have a question before we have 5 more minutes. And what helps you connect with your creative energy? If you want to share just a few words in the chat, you're very welcome to do so. What helps you connect with your creative energy? Nature, feeling safe, nature, a walk in nature. I can definitely relate to the nature thing. Nature and yoga. Okay, so thank you very much for sharing. So yeah, the nature, hiking, exactly, yeah, moving, nature and sports. Yeah, so we can see this element of connection. So here, I'm going to, these are just questions you can look at. I'm just gonna have you have a small exercise. So I'm gonna show you something with a number of pictures. And you're gonna choose and pick, you don't have to share anything in the chat. You just keep it for yourself. And I'm gonna show you this, and as I'm going to show you, you are going to pick the one that you would like to go on a play date with. So with whom would you like to go on a play date with? And here I introduce you to the magic world of teddies. So look at them, take your time, and pick and choose one or two. I mean, there is no limits because obviously they are all on the screen. But with whom, with which teddy would you go on a play date? And why? And just feel in your body, just connect to the sensation in your body when you look at the one image that you've chosen and you connect and you're imagining to go on a play date with these teddy. What comes in your body? What sensation? What emotions maybe? I'm looking at some of your faces. Very good. So I'm just gonna give credit to who painted this teddies. She's with us tonight, and it's not to promote her work. It's just because I want to be honest and give her credit, because these teddies, to tell you the truth, are helping me on a regular basis to reconnect with my playfulness. And I think connecting with our sense of playfulness is a very natural and easy way, along with these other things that you have mentioned, nature, sports, hiking, to connect with our creativity. And I think if I had to summarize everything in one word is, by helping our body to release stress, by giving it movement, allowing the tremors and the movements that come through TRE, for example, to bring us to this sense of more aliveness and calm and whatever the effects are and release, we are better able to connect with our playful mode and our curiosity. And in the same way, connecting to this curiosity and playful mode is also a way to release the tension. So thank you, Madeleine, very much for giving us access to that. And I will put in the chat a few links that I will, share with you, because I'm a singer, and I would have loved to share some of my singing or with some of my music with you, but the 1 hour was definitely too short. I'm going to put in the chat a few links. Feel free to connect with them. And if there's any questions you have, you'd like to access some of the resources that I used for this presentation, you'd like to get in touch with me because, you'd like to have a playful moment, all of this, feel free to connect with me, and just give me 1 second to put everything in the chat. Okay, now this is where here, I'm going to put all of that, and you're here, still here. You didn't leave. That's great. Thank you. There we go. Okay. Did you get everything? Yeah? Perfect. So before we say goodbye, and maybe some of you will meet at the TRE session that we co-facilitate with Hans, and it would be a pleasure to share that moment with you. If you haven't registered, I think there's still time to do it. So Hans just shared the link in the chat also. You're very welcome to, if you change your mind and yes, we'd love to tremor together. We'll try to tremor from that place of playfulness and creative exploration of what is happening in the body. So we're kind of going there. And I'd be really happy if you want to share with me one word of something you've taken from that, talk, knowing that I would have loved to listen to you. So if you want to say it all out loud in the vocal way, you are very welcome to do it. And thank you for your comments. And if you have stress decreases. Thank you. So stress decreases creativity. Sharing. So it was a great time for me. Thank you for also celebrating my birthday with you. Oh, you can't see the links. Okay. I put them in the chat. Oh, okay. Sorry. I think I made a mistake. See the link here. Yeah. So sorry. Okay. I just made a mistake, I realized. Okay. Thank you for reminding me. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I would like to thank you very much, Yasmin, for doing this talk on your birthday. I would like you to congratulate you very much on your birthday. I hope you had a great evening. We will do it in a session as well. So it was very inspirational for me to hear about your experience. We already have an interview with you on the web page as well, which we can send out an email after this session. also to hear about your experiences from the point of view of creativity as well was refreshing, I would say. It's like a different taste to our normal sort of trauma-oriented talks. And so that was very fun. And also I liked the way you use this response funnel model. So that was great to see as well. I'd like to thank everyone for showing up and participating today. We will meet some of you afterwards as well. And we have more talks coming up later on in this before summer, and we are making more plans as well for talks after the summer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Hans, very much for giving this possibility, and have a wonderful day or night or whatever comes to you.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See
Bye.
some of you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.